The Pokémon world is a fascinating universe, filled to the brim with exciting mysteries to be uncovered by avid players who go above and beyond the mere gameplay and exposition spoon-fed to us by curated cutscenes. The true knowledge of this world is buried layers deep, in lost journals, abandoned mansions, and Pokédex entries. Pokémon has never been a franchise to shy away from the odd or downright terrifying notions of its universe, like Hypno's ability to brainwash children or the myriad of horrifying Pokédex entries of ghost Pokémon. The world inhabited by these mons is as much a verdant garden where nature thrives and humanity respects their place in the ecosystem as it is about mystery and terror. But the truth is that I have never had a feeling of unease comparable to what I recently felt playing through Pokémon Violet, when the Paradox future Pokémon began appearing in the main story. From this point onwards, beware of spoilers for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Depending on which game you're playing, you will either be confronted by either past or future Paradox Pokémon. In Pokémon Scarlet, the player will have to first battle and then try and catch primeval versions of many of the modern Pokémon, from mischievous ancestor Flattermane to Amoonguss Brute Bonnet. But it is in Pokémon Violet that I see the true horrors hidden in this game. In this version of this generation's Pokémon, the player will be presented with beasts of the future, that also resemble currently thriving Pokémon species, like Aridon Juglis, a clear future version of Hydreigon, or Iron Threads, essentially a robotic version of Donphan. What happened in the world so that all the future Paradox Pokémon are mechanical and not biological in nature? What terrible future awaits this once thriving world? And what is Turo hiding about what he truly saw in the future? Today we will answer all of those questions in a new episode of Rebel Culture. If you like our content, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. We really appreciate it. But now, back to the video. We will put forward 3 apocalyptic scenarios that might have led to a world in which Pokémon had to mutate to such mechanical abominations in order to reach the future that is described in the Violet book, and that is beginning to bleed into the present through the Paldea region. We will first talk about a potential ecological collapse, about an alien invasion, and a time loop. You think any of these are impossible? Then stick around. First theory, an ecological collapse. The wonderful truth of the diversity of the Pokémon world is how well it parallels ours. Obviously, there are no dragons spitting fire or turtles with water cannons in our universe, sadly, but a large amount of Pokémon are based on currently existing animals. The other side of this coin, though, is that the Pokémon world might face similar challenges to those suffered by a myriad of species in our time, such as the mass extinctions that have taken place across all 4.5 billion years of our planet's existence. And though ecological catastrophes have occurred as products of natural events in the past, like the eruption of a supervolcano or a cataclysmic earthquake, for the first time in our history, humanity has the power to cause similar impacts on the world, through global warming or rising sea levels. Perhaps the future of the Pokémon universe is at a similar impasse. The technology in that universe seems to either be comparable or downright superior to ours, so I don't think it is a stretch to assume that their industrialization level might be similar. This leads to a rather terrifying conclusion, in which perhaps the worst fears of ecologists come true in the Pokémon world, leading to a mass extinction event of many of the original Pokémon that inspired the future Paradox forms that we will find in the game. Since many of these forms are artificial, meaning made by humans or some other intelligent being, instead of biological, like Pikachu or Torchic, it stands to reason that, perhaps as their ecological world began collapsing, humanity sought to develop mechanical beings to occupy the ecological niche that were being damaged. For example, consider the role of Delibird as a healing Pokémon that roams the land looking for injured Pokémon to heal up with its presence. It might have been seen as a too valuable a resource to waste, so as the temperature increased product of global warming and the Delibird population started dwindling, a civilization sought to develop item bundles to take over that niche, similar to how in our present, some companies are developing robotic bees to occupy the role of pollinizers as the biological bee population becomes compromised. Maybe such a collapse and the possibility to avoid it in the present is what fueled Professor Turo's obsession with the future of the Paldea region, as he sought to avoid it in secret. But much like in our real world, there are few simple solutions to this problem. So he instead wanted to understand the nature of these paradoxical future forms to perhaps accelerate their development in the present, so when the time came they were prepared to take over their biological counterparts. So, that was it for the first theory. If you're enjoying this video, consider clicking the subscribe button. We have more videos about Pokemon that you might love. But now, let's go on to the next theory. The second of our hypotheses might seem a bit out of left field, but it is greatly supported by evidence from the Pokédex entries of these future paradox Pokemon. And it is that the Paldea region and maybe the whole Pokemon world might face an alien invasion in the near future, and the paradox Pokemon are the weapons used by both the extraterrestrials in their assault and the humans as they defend the Earth. This theory came about after reading the Pokédex entries of Iron Moth, Iron Threads, and Iron Bundle. Let's do a quick run-through of these Pokédex entries. Of Iron Moth, the Pokédex of Pokémon Scarlet says, "This Pokémon resembles an unknown object, described in a paranormal magazine as a UFO sent to observe humanity." Of Iron Threads, the Pokédex entry in Pokémon Scarlet offers the following description. "This Pokémon closely resembles a scientific weapon that a paranormal magazine claimed was sent to this planet by aliens." And the final entry for Iron Bundle, "Its shape is similar to a robot featured in a paranormal magazine article. The robot was said to have been created by an ancient civilization." Essentially, these descriptions point to some extraterrestrial origin of Iron Threads and Iron Moth. Whether the ancient civilization referenced in the Iron Bundle Pokédex entry is actually an Earth-based civilization is arguable. But seeing as in our present the Iron Bundle don't exist yet, it makes sense that they might have originated from some other planet. Also, when considering the fact that Iron Moth, Bundle, and Threads might have been the weaponized infantry sent by the aliens invading Earth, then it might not be a stretch to assume that humanity decided to engage in an arms race to meet the level of firepower of the invading forces. Pokédex entries, like those of Iron Valiant, Iron Jugulis, and Iron Hands, I believe present a clear human origin of such beings. Let's check them out. Iron Valiant. It has some similarities to a mad scientist invention covered in a paranormal magazine. Iron Hands. It is very similar to a cyborg covered exclusively by a paranormal magazine. The cyborg was said to be a modified form of a certain athlete. And Iron Jugulis. It resembles a certain Pokémon introduced in a paranormal magazine, described as the offspring of a Hydreigon that fell in love with a robot. I believe that these descriptions do outline a human origin, especially when considering that Iron Valiant was developed by a mad scientist and was clearly designed to be a ferocious being made for battle. Iron Hands directly talks to the term cyborg, which outlines an underlying biological component that has with technology. In this case, the athlete that became the Harayama-looking paradox Pokémon. The more controversial might be the description about Iron Jugulis, as it being the offspring of a Hydreigon that fell in love with a robot. I mean, obviously this can't be, seeing as Pokémon reproduce biologically, so perhaps it is more like a metaphor of a robot designed using Hydreigon as a base. Admittedly, whether Iron Jugulis will be fighting on the sides of humans or aliens, it is a bit unclear. The theory of an alien invasion and the consequent defense from the side of humans is not too far-fetched when considering the fact that Pokémon has been quite clear about life existing in other planets. Take for example the existence of the Deoxys, as being an entity of an unquestionable alien origin. Turo's obsession with the future can also be understood through the lens of this theory, whereby his interest in sending Pokeballs through time to catch the future paradox Pokémon might have had the objective of giving humanity an edge in the upcoming war. Our final theory is perhaps the most simple and also the most complex, as it always is the case when dealing with time travel. It was Turo's worry that the arrival of the future Pokémon to the present might compromise the delicate ecosystem of life thriving in Paldea, putting both Pokémons and humans at risk, as the more advanced forms of many Pokémon might be way more powerful than their existing counterparts and thereby lead to their extinction. This also happens in the real world, as new species are introduced into environments that have no natural defenses against them. Their population thrives, and the native flora and fauna rapidly becomes overrun by a competitor without a match. I believe that perhaps a paradox took place in Paldea, whereby the future Paradox Pokémon arrived into the present through Turo's time machine, dominating the rest of these species of Pokémon, bringing them to extinction. And then, once they have dominated the Paldean region, they remain the only Pokémon in the area. Since most Paradox Pokémon are mechanical and not biological, they are not subject to evolution, so they don't change in all those years until the point where Turo catches them in the future, bringing them back to the point in time when Pokémon Violet takes place. This is, of course, a paradox and a time loop, but it is possible considering the fact that Turo was worried about the escaped future Pokémon could cause precisely this scenario in the game. Obviously, we don't know if any of these theories are true. I would say that I don't believe that Game Freak would actually care to explain much of what will happen in the future, but I also never thought that we would have time-traveling Pokémon or multi-dimensional entities, but here we are. So, thank you so much for watching this episode of Rebel Culture. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and consider subscribing to this channel. We have some other really cool Pokémon videos that you can find on your screen right now. So once again, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.